Bob DiGiacomo, because today what we are doing is we're having another great session on a wonderful topic. But I'm not going to tell you what the topic is right now. I'm just going to let Bob get into and immerse us into the topic.
Well, hello, everybody. And just a moment, Alejandro, while I get my act together, because I wouldn't want my momentum to carry me away if I was not ready. Hey, I've got this awesome quote that it's just amazing that because of that thing we did a couple of weeks ago on synchronicity, that it just totally confirms that coincidences never happen coincidentally. And so what was in my inbox just a little while ago, something that I knew was going to be perfect for today's topic. And that quote is, "How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world." How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. And that's a quote by Anne Frank. Now, she's no longer with us, but she lives with us in history and infamy, because she was one of those people that hid during World War II so that they could try to escape the concentration camps. Eventually, she was found. But I know today is not about Anne Frank, but it just plays into what we're going to be speaking about, and that is momentum. The ability to put matters in motion, to put things in motion so that it takes on a life of its own. And I've got a few other things I'm going to add to the conversation as we get into this a little deeper, Alejandro. But every day is a do-over day. It's an opportunity to get another opportunity that if we didn't necessarily get it right, if we didn't get the momentum in motion yesterday, we have an opportunity today to fix whatever didn't work yesterday so that today we can start building up on momentum. And I know I always look at that sign right over your shoulder. Today I will make a difference. So I'm going to add a word to that. Today I will make a difference in creating momentum.
Yes, indeed, and it's great. I mean, to have. I think that momentum it can be equated as to have the wind on your back. I mean, when a plane is flying from a point A to point B, um, it can have, or perhaps even during that trip. That plane may have wind coming against it, and it kind of slows it down. But how good it is and how much better time it can make. I mean, when you have wind on your back behind you, because it's like another set of hands pushing you in the direction that you want to go. So I heard it so many times that momentum is something that we have to be happy to have, but also it's it's a kind of a, I don't know, but it's a kind of a dangerous, because as you gather momentum and you get to that point, it's very difficult to stop. And we have too many examples. I mean, we have the examples of freight trains. I mean, sometimes you see those very, very, very long. I mean, they look like several miles long freight trains, and you have those 2 or 3 locomotives in the front, and it's really a sight to see when the train is at rest and then it begins to gather speed, how much effort those locomotives have to make right at the beginning. I mean, to get it from rest to motion. But as soon as that train, once you see it going, it doesn't go very, very speedily. But what happens is that it gathered that momentum and it just don't get on its way because it will not stop. I mean, it will just keep on going and it will take anyone that stands on its way. So I think that's the advantage of having momentum. And you can have it in your personal life, and you can have it in a business. I mean, when a business gathers momentum, then it's no looking back or stopping along the way.
Now, it's interesting you say that because there's a couple of points that come up. First of all, if the engines that were pulling that train just suddenly turned the throttles off and just allowed the train to free roll without applying the brakes, because of the momentum that had been built up, it will take a long time for that train to actually come to a stop. Now, obviously, if the brakes are applied, it'll stop a little bit sooner. But as you're saying, if anything gets in the way of that train while it is in fact in a state of momentum, it doesn't matter what's in its way, because what's in its way will be totally destroyed. And that reminds me of the story John always talks about from the law of momentum, the big Mo, that a brick concrete wall of certain dimensions, if the train were moving at literally no speed, that wall would not really be damaged by that train. He also mentions the fact you could take just a little piece of wood and put it right in front of the drive wheel, and that same train would have an issue trying to even move in the first place. But where I want to go with that is, and I don't say this to impress anybody, but more so to impress upon you, because a couple of years ago I challenged everybody to join me on a 10,000 step a day journey, for a day, for a week, for a month, for a year. And it was a series of building up momentum, and then things get in the way and you lose your momentum. And as you were doing these 10,000 steps a day, it became easier to not do 10,000 steps a day because of whatever reason. But back on September 30th, because of the virus and being sheltered in place, I've been sitting here and I didn't leave and didn't go out, and I felt my metabolism in my body going downhill. So I made a determination, and it started on September 30th. And I said, okay, I'm going to start doing 10,000 steps a day. And for the first week, it was a bear. I have to tell you, I'm sucking wind, sucking eggs, sucking everything, trying to, but I was determined to get through those 10,000 steps. And of course, I'm using my Apple Watch here to time me and to tell me all the important things. And today was a great example. I noticed today, and I was walking in a headwind most of the way, but the wind didn't even impact me because of the fact that I had built up the stamina over the last few weeks, that I've actually decreased my time to do the same amount. And that was walking in a headwind. So momentum is something, as you mentioned, that comes and comes. Now, of course, we're leadership coaches. We're all about, what does this have to do with leadership? So I want to throw in there, because we're living in the moment. The moment is now. The opportunity to start momentum starts now. In other words, you haven't started yet. Well, it starts now. You've got to start from A so that you can get to B. So we're living in the moment. But now, as the moment and the momentum starts to grow, and I'm looking down at some notes that I wrote on this, we become like a magnet because we begin to attract like things to us. People see our momentum and they want to be part of that. So that brings in the law of attraction, the law of magnetism. And it's because of our momentum that we put into that. There's one other thing that I want to throw in, and I'll throw it back to you, is that we become nuclear. We become very, very nuclear because we become that nucleus, and there are electrons out there floating around, and they want to become part of our orbit. And as we begin to combine other people to us because of the law of attraction and the law of magnetism, we just literally become a fusion, a fission, whatever you want. I don't care, fission, fusion, but we become a force to be reckoned with, going somewhere. And hopefully that somewhere is the destination that we've written down, that we're even putting this momentum in place in the first place.
Yes, there are several things, good things, um, that just like momentum, um, you can see another one is um, passion, enthusiasm. Those things are definitely contagious,
Mhm.
and you can. I mean, we can infect other people. I mean, with this. I mean, if you're in an environment where there is everybody is high energy, and you walked in, or a person walks in who is perhaps at a lower energy, that person has two options. I mean, of course, I mean, if that is too much, I mean, that person can say, okay, I'm turning back and I'm leaving here because, I mean, I cannot stand this high energy. But if not, if that person stays there, uh, sooner or later, and perhaps sooner than later, that person is going to raise his or her energy level to the energy level of the room. I mean, that energy would be infectious, and that is good. And good attitudes are contagious, and passion, and so momentum is contagious. I think that when you are in an environment or in a business that has momentum, that it's going, that it's creative, that is moving forward, that is good, it has a lot of good ideas, and people are bouncing ideas against each other, and that, I mean, you are being immersed in that. So your personal momentum is going to equilibrate to the momentum of the business that you're in. So that is a good benefit of this business of momentum, because it maintains and it keeps people, um, in a sense, at the top of their game, as opposed to in the level of mediocrity. So I think that momentum is it has that, it gives that extra push to people to reach even higher, and more forward into whatever, I mean, they want to accomplish.
So you just reminded me of the V formation that the geese fly. And there's that goose in the front of the formation, right at the crux of the V. And he's honking away, and the others are honking behind him in encouragement. Eventually, the lead goose gets tired, waning in some momentum perhaps, and the next goose moves up in place, and the other guy gets in the back for a little while, and the encouragement continues so that the momentum continues. Now, interestingly enough, we can be self-momentous, but if we are only self-momentous, it's a new word I made up. Right? If we're only self-momentous, eventually we become maybe out of steam, which is why it's so important to hang around with like-minded people. And that's why there are workshops and there are, we've gotten so social media minded that sometimes well, I know that there are groups that we can deal with like over Zoom, but it's not necessarily the same as being together and letting that energy. You and I are doing these great things, but sometimes our energy is a lot greater when we're actually side by side. It's why I nicknamed you the Tornado, because you are just like full of energy when, but obviously we're sitting here today and we're a little idle, but it's so important to be with like-minded people. It's so important to be reading and watching positive things that are focused on the momentum direction that you're looking to travel. Um, if I'm looking to fly like a goose, I'm not going to necessarily look to be an alligator. I need to learn how the geese fly if I'm going to fly with the geese. Are you following where I'm going with that?
Sure. Oh, yes. Oh, definitely. As a matter of fact, I mean, talking about geese, I mean, yesterday I went to the store and in my bag, I mean, there was behind me. I could hear a lot of those geese uh, sounds, and then they just went overhead, and it was such a perfect V formation, and I mean, it's really amazing how I guess they really don't know that they're doing that, but is just their their bird intuition. I mean that gets them to fly in that formation, and it's really incredible to see. But getting together, I mean, with like-minded people, I think that is one of the best ways to actually gather momentum, because um, uh, the likelihood that when you are with other like-minded people, that you can begin to perhaps collaborate and do things together, and everybody going in the same direction, because that's what momentum is all about. I think that, of course, I mean, momentum, I mean, comes from physics and from engineering terminology, and you have, I mean, momentum is only possible when all the forces are aligned in the same direction. I mean, when you have some of the forces going to the right and some of the forces going to the left, then you will never have momentum, because you have a lot of resistance in there that goes against that building up momentum. So you have to have everybody pulling the cart in the same direction for it to begin to gather momentum, and that's only possible if you are working, or if you're doing things, I mean, with like-minded people, because everybody is going to try to go in the same direction. I mean, if they all agree, they will all go that same way.
Well, you probably will remember from your younger days, back when we were in school in science class, and the teacher put out this piece of paper and sprinkled iron filings on the paper, and then took just a plain piece of steel, a steel rod, and just pushed it near the iron filings. Well, nothing happened except that the iron filings ended up getting separated a little bit. It was a mishmash. But then that teacher took that same iron rod, steel rod, and put it up with a little electrical force to it, or another magnet, and went back to those same iron filings. And all of a sudden, the iron filings suddenly were attracted to that steel bar. So where we're going with this, and that's why I'm bringing up the law of magnetism and the law of attraction, is that if you are part of a group of like-minded people and there's momentum happening with, let's say, the leader or the leaders, you can't help but get sucked in and go along for the ride. But again, it's going to be dependent on the energy that you put in. Now, again, from a leadership perspective and a coaching perspective, you have an opportunity today to begin the momentous occasion of starting on the journey to the destiny that is awaiting you. And it's going to take momentum. In other words, again, I can't say today I'm going to become a brain surgeon. I am going to need to study. I'm going to need to get around people that are good at what they're doing in that regard. I just happen to use brain surgery as an example, but let's say I want to be a speaker. I need to get around speakers. I need to get around somebody who is going to coach me to be, and that's all part of the momentum that will be involved.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean, just whatever you want to gather momentum in whatever area of your life, and hopefully once you gather momentum in one area, that will translate into other areas of your life. But is just um, uh, get together. I mean, try to begin reaching out. I mean, to people who are already ahead of you in that area, that you can really, as they are going, you can tag along with them, and they will help you increase your own momentum. I think that is a very good point, and a very good example. I mean, just spend time with people with whom you want to learn from, because you want to increase your knowledge and your skills and your abilities in that particular area, and they will help you along the way. And pretty soon, I mean, you'll see that your momentum is going up.
So once again, I'm going to come back to your original example of that locomotive, that freight train. The locomotives and the cars attached to the freight train need maintenance. They
Yes.
need to be oiled. They need to be provided with fuel. They need to be painted, whatever it is. As long as maintenance is in, momentum can continue. So that maintenance is like-minded people, books, videos, what have you, workshops. When maintenance is not provided, it falls by the wayside. Like my saying, okay, the COVID virus, I got to stay in the house. I'm just going to sit like a bump on a log. We lose momentum and we deteriorate to a point where when we do decide to get started again for the first time, it's harder.
Oh yes, I mean it is. I mean it is harder. It's and if you don't believe that it is harder, just if you're a person, I mean, who perhaps used to work out every single day, and either go to the gym or work out, I mean, from home.
Yeah, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I mean, for whatever reason, I mean, you stop, and you stop not for just one day, because one day will not make that much of a difference. But if you stopped, I mean, for um, a month or several months, and you did not work out at all, okay, you went from an active life to a very sedentary kind of a life. And then after those few months, then you decided to say, well, I'm going to go back into the gym. I tell you, I mean, you just jump into the treadmill, and even perhaps even walking, I mean, after 5 minutes, I mean, you'll be out of breath. And you want to do some heavy weight, and no, I mean, you probably would have to start with the 15-pound dumbbells or the 20-pound dumbbells. I mean, you want to lift 45 or 50. Well, I mean, you'll get there, but is going to is you have to wait some time, because you lost, guess what, you lost the momentum that you had. Going to the gym every day got you momentum, and it got you to a physical stamina that after months of sedentary life, then you lost. Uh, you can you recover them? Of course you can, but it's going to take you. You cannot do it in a couple of days. It's going to take you a long while to get back. And why am I giving that example? Is because if you are working out and you are in an active life, then don't stop, because it's going to be harder to start again if you stop than if you continue. As a matter of fact, if something happens on your schedule and you have to reduce your activity, it's sometimes better to reduce it, but to keep going, as opposed to stop it completely.
And one last point to everything you just said. When you go back and you realize that after 5 minutes you're out of breath, or 10 minutes, and you're at a breaking point, how easy it is to say, yeah, I don't need this, and you go backwards, as opposed to saying, yes, I need this, and therefore you break through the terror barrier and move to the next step and the next step and the next step. And before you know it, you've acquired the momentum again, and it's like nothing happened in the first place. So, what do you want to close with today?
Well, I mean, just a reminder to people, I mean, who will be watching this session, that momentum, momentum, treat momentum as your very best friend. Because momentum, once momentum is on your side, it will help you, it will enhance you, it will improve you. Don't resist momentum, just work with momentum, and you'll see that your life will become all the very, very best that you can possibly make it.
So, to everybody who's watching this, if you want to continue to hang around with like-minded people, be sure to go to Alejandro ampersand and Bob on iTunes or Google Play, and you can take us along with you in iPod format, or I publish these videos to my YouTube channel under Robert DiGiacomo, and you see my name spelled out there. And Alejandro, I know you have a YouTube channel, and so you're posting there as well. Like-minded people get together, watch things, read things, interact, and people can contact us at any time for more information, because that's what it's all about: the law of attraction, the law of momentum. And today is a good time to start again
Yes.
for the first time.
Yes, of course it is. So, thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. I mean, another great session with a great topic. Just keep doing things, because as you do things, then you will continue to increase your own momentum. So, as I always remind you to live every moment, to be resilient, and also to be kind, be passionate, be intentional, and remember that we were not designed with any limitations. So go out, live every single day to the fullest, and make every day a limitless experience. Thank you. Until the next time that we meet, all the very best and be well.
Bye, everybody.